everybody? We are back with another list review here at the Forge. Phil, how you doing today?
I'm great. It's a great night. I'm excited to talk about some Necrons. I never thought I would be this excited to talk about some Necrons, but after talking with our Strat Reserves pro, Brett, we have some great thoughts about this detachment.
Yeah, it's not one I've looked into a ton, but there's actually some really cool interactions that you can put together within this detachment. It does still seem like it might be, a little bit below Awakened and some of these others, but it's still playable. I think you could run this at a tournament and feel just fine. So what was it? Woozy Chuckles, our man submitted the list for his Obeisance Phalanx Necrons. So we're gonna run through that real quick. Then Phil and I will both give our takes. We did this separately. We wanted to kind of see which direction each of us took it. And then lastly, we are going to present the list that Brett, our faction specialist, kind of put together and what he would run. So we'll see just how far off we can find ourselves and why we ended up in those spots with the list we created.
Yeah. All right. 2,000 points, right on the nose. Obeisance Phalanx. What this detachment does is there's a couple keywords. It's noble. It's what are the other two?
Triarch, and then I believe it is Lich Guard.
Lich Guard. That's right. That's the third one. Those units pretty much get +1 to wound. It's crazy. +1 to wound is a pretty good ability, and I understand why we would want to use this detachment for that. What Woozy Chuckles' list was a Chronomancer, Imhotep the Stormlord, an Overlord, another Overlord, one with Warrior Noble, the other with Eternal Conqueror, an Overlord with Translocation Shroud, an Honorable Combatant, a big old Silent King, who doesn't want to leave home without him, 10 man of Immortals, a 5 man of Death Marks, 2 units of 5 man Flayed Ones, 2 man of Locust Heavy Destroyers, another 2 man of Locust Heavy Destroyers, 2 10-mans of Lich Guard, and 1 5-man of Triarch Praetorians. He feels like something is missing, right? And he can't place his finger on it, and he should change how he plays in terms of running this list, but he doesn't know if he needs to run this aggressively or he needs to be a little bit more passive with a list like this. So Lane and I actually have some really interesting thoughts for you on what you would potentially swap out or continue to run going forward. And that was the only restriction he gave. So we got the free reign, Lane.
Yeah. Last week we tried to really keep it very, very similar. This week Chuckles had the full range to work with, so he said go wild, and I feel like we did. We're gonna have multiple different perspectives and ways to run the list, and really, potentially have the one that might be right for you. So who are we gonna be starting out with, Phil? You or I?
We'll start out with yours. Yours is the first one in the presentation, so
okay. We will
start with yours.
That is fair. All right. So from the top, make it drop. We got Chronomancers. I revised this a couple of times. That's why it's somewhat out of order as we went through it. Because there was a couple different things I wanted to do. But the main thing is there's going to be 2 Chronomancers and 2 Overlords with Translocation Shroud. When you put those together and you put them on a group of those Immortals with the Tesla, they are able to advance the 6 inches thanks to the Overlord's translocation and still fire because the Immortals have assault on their weapons. And then thanks to the Chronomancer, they can move the additional 5 inches after a nice shoot and scoot, a very easy to use combo. To go with that, we also have Imhotep for some CP generation. He is going to go with the 3rd set of Immortals. The next thing is a hex mark. I wanted to have a couple of different lone op options within this list, as well as Illuminor Xeris, who also will gain that when he is next to infantry models, and that kind of rounds out the characters. He also does give +1 to AP to the battle line units that are next to him, so whenever the Immortals are firing, they're going to get an extra pip of AP, which is very nice to have on some 0 AP sustained hits weapons. As far as regular infantry goes, 1 unit of Flayed Ones to have some infiltrate, kind of get some early board presence. A unit of 10 Lich Guard to go be some kind of bullies and tank the front line during the middle of the turns and really, be able to have a solid front line and keep people away from your Immortals as necessary. 1 Locust Destroyer for a scoring unit. And then I have the 3 units of Immortals as stated. Only one of those is going to come with the lethal hits of the Gauss Flare. And then I have 1 unit of Locust Destroyer and then 3 Doomsday Arcs. So The real thing I wanted to try to do with listless, you said you were playing overly aggressive, so I'm like, okay, well, we're gonna go the other way. We're playing in the era of challenger cards, you know. So if you go second, this is just the perfect list for that. So 50% of the time, it works every time. Always what we're shooting for, you know, here at Mastercrafted. It'll still work if you go first. It's still just fine at that. I will preface it. You're not hoping for the coin toss. But the premise is you're really going to try to leverage your two lone ops early and really just try to draw your opponent closer to you. One of the big things we've talked about with Brett is that Necrons do not have a ton of speed, especially in lists that are running a lot of these units. And I wanted to go with a version that didn't have the Silent King, just to, you know, make sure we're giving plenty of options. I do think the Silent King is great. I would have no trouble putting him in one of my lists. And the other thing is, I didn't want to use a Night Scythe in my list either, because we're going to be seeing that later. And so I wanted to really just focus on the slower, castlier play. Just to, you know, I know I'm teasing Phil's list, I know, but that is the general principle. Is you're just trying to trade very, very lightly early and try to keep drawing your opponent in. Whenever they do come in, you're gonna step out, blast them with hopefully AP1 sustained hits. You can spend a CP for crit hits on fives and really just be roasting things that are out in the midboard and then stepping back into safety. The goal is, especially as Necrons, you know, you're excessively tanky. They can kill one or two models and you just reanimate. So if you're able to kill a lot of their trash early and then just be like, all right, cool, turn 3, here's my army, you know, and you're just shoving Lich Guard in their face. You put your DDAs out there while they help push and do some incredible damage. They are definitely going to be capable of dealing with a lot of those bigger targets like Knights. And even if you give the +1 to wound, the sheer amount of shots you're going to have out of these immortals trying to like go into a Knights matchup, it's actually fairly lethal in this detachment. And so it's trying to play that little bit slower, draw them in. This list is meant to force them to do that more than they normally would have to. And then you're just gonna kind of be aggressive and send the house turn 3 is pretty much what you're doing. But, you know, pump the brakes early and then just go have fun. Just say that's dead, you know, and just try to blow some things up. And it's got decent defensive strats, especially on those Doomsday arcs. Having the -1 to damage is pretty solid. I really like that. Phil, when you kind of, you know, when I gave you the list to put in here, what were some of your thoughts about it?
Triple Doomsday Arc is the first thing that stood out, right? And just in terms of like a shooting profile, it doesn't necessarily need support from the detachment to be effective. DDAs are just good on their own. Yeah. Other thing that definitely stood out overall is Lich Guard, right? Like, they're a very interesting unit because they are relatively tough. They can control that mid board incredibly well, but you know, don't stand up to a lot of the combat that's going on in the game. But that's not necessarily their job, right? Their job is to be some kind of a sponge that your opponent has to go into, and you know, us to be absolutely okay with that.
Yeah,
I love Triox Stalkers. I think they're fantastic. I think they're a great addition because they do benefit from the keyword, and they have Scout, and they have a good melted profile. Like, they kill a lot of stuff, and then just Immortals are just so solid.
Yeah, and that was one of the reasons I still wanted to keep a Lich Guard in the list, is as I was looking through, there's a strat, and I believe it's only Praetorians, or maybe it's Triarchs or Lich Guard, I'm pretty sure you can bump their OC up for a turn. So having a tech piece that can just go, well, I maybe cannot kill you. You're fairly hidden on your natural, but I need to go, you know, out OC you. Once you've kind of staged, you've gotten to turn 2, you know, and you can threaten that with your Lich Guard. You can then go, okay, cool. Well, they're all OC 20 OC. I might not kill you off, but I will out OC you, and that's kind of the important thing. And that's
Lane,
just
I can tell it's the guard player. Exactly. That's what I was about to say. That's the guard player in you. You're like, oh, I could get more OC, taking that.
Yep. Yeah. So that would just be my thing. Imhotep is still just going to float with those immortals, and you can still definitely mix and match. You might be losing out on some of the advance and shoot stuff from putting an Overlord and a Chronomancer with the lethal hits of the Gauss Flayers, but in the right matchups, it's more important to just step out, shoot, and fall back, and just really try to abuse the lethal hits you're going to be getting off of them. So there is still some flexibility in there. I'm sure we're going to see some mix and match potential in the list coming up. But yeah, that was kind of my take. I'm trying to make sure we keep it a little bit different, give some varieties and different thought processes on how to maybe play some Phalanx Necrons, dude. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
It is really, really interesting. Okay, Lane, any final thoughts, or can we move on to what I would say is the best list ever?
Yeah, let's see it, Phil. Let's go 100%, 0 to 100. Let's see what your list is and how you are trying to get into people's biscuits.
Okay. Well, Woozy, you said you didn't know whether you wanted to be aggressive or not aggressive. I solved the problem for you. It's just be aggressive all the time. You don't need to worry about that if your opponent is just dead. So let's talk about all the things that we need to do here in this list to be effective. Single Chronomancer, double Plasmancer, an Overlord, another Overlord with Eternal, and your last Overlord with Shroud. The one with Shroud and your Chronomancer are starting on the board. Mainly because you want them to be able to move, shoot, do their shenanigans. And the Chronomancer helps with that, especially in combination with Shroud. I'm running Silent King. Why not? He's just really good. He's got the Triarch keyword. Why not? Unit of Flayed Ones, that's just for a little bit infiltrating, right? I love infiltrators. I almost always have to have at least one on my list if my army has the capabilities to do so. Scarab Swarms, they're just for our home. They're just for a little bit of screening aspect. I like them a lot, and they're just a tool piece, right? But really, because of how aggressive this army is as a whole, I just need another little piece, and I have 40 points left, so let's run some Scarab Swarms. Locust Destroyers, 2-man, they are actions, they are fast. They have fly. They're fantastic. I just like them for how cheap they are. Double Triarch Stalker. Double. Two. Singular. They are fantastic. Double. And then we're talking about what makes this army tick. Double Night Scythe. And 2 of the Immortal Bricks with double Plasmancer, each with an Overlord, are going to be in those 2 Night Scythes because they have Deep Strike. So all that's going to happen is this unit is going to come on the board. They're going to drop out this massive brick of Immortals, and they are going to obliterate whatever's in front of them because they're going to have 5-up crits. They're going to have lethals. They're going to have access to rerolls in one of the units, and they are just going to go ham destroying it in combination with what the Triarch Stalkers are doing, the Silent Kings are doing, the Night Scythes are doing themselves with all of their shooting. It's just aggro. And then at the end of the fight phase, you're picking them both back up just to be extra obnoxious. That way no one can get into them reasonably easily because you're back in an aircraft.
Yeah, I dig it. And I think that was one thing we haven't covered specifically yet is what exactly those enhancements do. Eternal, Eternal Conqueror is the full name. It basically gives you reroll 1s all the time and then reroll all hits against anything on an objective. So love that. Very good. And then the other one is Warrior Noble. And basically it just gives you -1 to hit against that unit. So extra tankiness. Who doesn't love that? 15 points. Well worth it if you got the room.
Yeah. I mean, so good. There's some flexibility here, right? Like you could drop the Scarabs. You can get some more enhancements. You could do things like that. But for 2,000 points, like this is so incredibly good. Haku, come on.
Yeah, it's definitely going to do the thing, and it's going to get in there just like your dog is trying to just really invade your personal space as an army. And,
it's just aggressive. It's like you don't need to think about it. It's just you dump 2 Night Scythes, you Deep Strike, you get everything out, and then you just kill whatever comes out.
I will say, I do have an argument for maybe, drip feed that, do 1 at a time. All right, you can only mark 1 thing for the +1 to wound, okay? Maybe you have turns 1 through 3 to dump them out, as they say, and just put those Immortals into something. If you don't need both of them, please do not just yeet both of them. Wait a turn. Be like, okay, cool. Now I'm going to mark that other pain in the ass and delete it. But you can. You still can. If there's only one really, really hard target that you need the buff for, send them both. You still can delete 2 things. It's a very, very strong combo with the Plasmancer. And, yeah, it's just... And rerolls. Whew, gross.
Yeah. So good. So good. All right. Well, we obviously have some great, very interesting takes for Necrons, but our Necron specialist, Brett, let's hit his list and see what he's recommended for Woozy Chuckles to actually do.
All right, so the professional take here is a Chronomancer, Emotech, a regular Overlord, an Overlord with Shroud, a Plasmancer, and the Silent King, and then 2 units of Flayed Ones, nice infiltrate early trading, some Tomb Blades that also do have a shoot and scoot, as well as a scout move. They are incredibly fast. One thing I also had looked at taking, 2 units of Immortals, I believe 1 of each in his list as well.
Yes.
And then 1 single Doomsday Arc, a Triox Stalker, and then 2 Locust Destroyers.
One of which is heavy.
One of which is heavy, yes. And it should be a 3 unit of Locust Heavies, I'm pretty sure.
It is a 3 unit. Let me update that.
Yeah, pretty interesting. As far as enhancements go, similar thing. The regular Overlord has Eternal Conqueror for the reroll hits against objectives, and then the Overlord with Translocation has Honorable Combatant. And this is the meme, my friends. If you ever kill their Warlord, they lose, or is if you kill characters, they lose a CP.
Characters.
I gotta look this thing up. Just every time you kill a character,
they lose 1
CP.
CP.
Yes, amazing. What a great time to be alive when that trolley enhancement exists. If you have 10 points, you take it, I guess, but I would take almost any of the others first. It is cool. The only one we did not talk about was Unflinching Will, and that gives an Overlord model. Their melee weapon gives precision and anti-infantry 5 up. So that's pretty spicy. Can't complain about that for 20 points, but I don't think any of us were able to fit it into our lists. But definitely not something you hate. It's just, it's kind of weird. You would have to be really focusing on running your Overlords with your Lich Guard in that scenario to try to, get rid of, I don't know, a Judici or somebody who fights first in general, or maybe they have the bodyguard rule that makes them extra tanky. Knock them out in 1 activation, put something else into them after that. Would be some applications for that. But yeah, what takeaways did you have after seeing Brett's list? Were you like, man, maybe we should slow it down and not just dump 600 points into your opponent's lap turn 1? Or
No, absolutely not. You know what I took away from Brett's list? The things that I think are the standard themes. Immortals are good. You gotta run them with characters. And you just need tools in here. The Locust Heavy Destroyers for Brett. Fantastic units. A single track Stalker. I like them a lot. Once again, they do also benefit from the detachment rule. Obviously, Silent King is good, but overall, like, if you're building a list, just in general, like, we got to look at our scoring. That's how we do the things we do. So 2 units of Flayed Ones for the infiltrate, unit of Tomb Blades with how fast they are. Those are some great early scorers. But what's doing the work in this detachment? It's the Heavy Destroyers, it's the single Doomsday Arc, and it's those Immortal Bricks with the Silent King. Those are your heavy hitters. That's what's doing your work throughout the game. And I think you see that theme even in Lane and I's list. We love the Immortals, and any combination of which we are happy with. With Chronomancers, with Plasmancers, like, we are happy with all of those. We just want to be able to execute on them, and each of us are doing so differently. Mine, super aggro, right? The Night Scythes, being able to drop in, being able to, like, anything that comes out, I'm going to try to kill it, and I'm going to try to gauge those distances. That way, when I do come out and kill something, you don't have any reasonable asset to turn around and kill them in return. Because they are cheeky tough. They aren't necessarily go down super easy. So overall, the themes are there. I think you could definitely run this detachment and be pleased with it, as Lane said in the beginning. So yeah, overall, pretty happy.
Yeah, I think that was the only other major takeaway I got from Brett is just, it seems like Necrons really struggle with speed. Yours 100% answered that by just be fast, be anywhere. We just have Team Strike, baby. And I answer that with trying to force them to come to me. Trying to play aggressively without speed can be very, very difficult. And I think that might be potentially the problem you might be running into with the list you do have, just as a thought. But yeah, I felt like, even then, you still had a solid list. It was fun to just play around with, what would we do? What would Mastercrafted do? Now you know.
Now you know.
Okay. All right, Phil, any final thoughts?
No, I'm happy to keep doing this series. Like it's going well. I like being able to look at other detachments and armies that I don't necessarily see all the time, and it definitely opens my eyes to everything that I'm not necessarily used to.
Yeah, it's definitely been a fun learning experience so far. Thank you all for all the amazing extra follows, and it's been awesome. All the interaction in the comments. We're gonna try to keep up with them. It's been super busy for the two of us, so we're gonna do the best we can. If you haven't joined the Discord, hop in there. We'll see it way quicker. And then do not forget that victory isn't given; it's forged, and it's forged right here on Mastercrafted. We will see you all next time.